Hello. So I forgot I had made a new LinkedIn account because I was previously banned on LinkedIn. And I thought, well, this tacky old little LinkedIn background, I'm going to change that. So click right there to change it. And it will show your support. And they offer us a bunch of, you can of course upload a custom photo, which I plan to do. And I come down here, oh, Black Lives Matter. And I love black people. I don't know if I say that enough, but I love black people. I love half black people. I love all people. Um, all of these choices here are, there's amplified black voices, which I personally never heard of. Black owned business, stand up for justice, like those kind of, as long as those aren't like a quote unquote organization, I think those sound pretty cool. I'm down for that. Um, but down here, like, that's the logo for the Chinese Communist Party, isn't it? I mean, that's definitely something we see in a lot of places, and I definitely believe in empowering black people, but I wouldn't think that an Aryan salute would be appropriate. That's just me, I guess, but I wouldn't think that would be appropriate for a thing. Um, I'm not into those kind of salutes. I back people's freedom of expression. I think like, yeah, if you want that background, go for it. But anyway, I was just thinking, this Black Lives Matter, that's I kind of hate to say it, but it's a political front. It is not. It's a particular organization. It's not so much the message as it is the organization behind it. And there's a lot of controversy about to what degree that organization is supporting Black lives. I won't specifically give my opinions on that part of it, but anyway, you know that I guess triggered that whole thought in my thought process, and then I had anyway. So we'll go over to Black Lives Matter, hit donate, and scroll down here. And I've gone over this before in some of my stupid videos, and it's an ActBlue charity organization. And you come down here. ActBlue Charity is a qualified 501c3, which a lot of people are familiar with that term. 501c3 means that they don't pay taxes, and you get a tax deductible, a tax deduction for donating to them. So it's like, wow, a win-win for both sides, right? A lot like churches and thrift stores, homeless shelters, things like that. So then we go over to the ActBlue summary, and it looks like in 2020 here, they've raised almost $1.9 billion, and they spent almost that much. Looks like just 100 million shy or so, maybe not quite, maybe just 10 million shy. So they've spent that much of how much they've raised in their spending cycle here. And if we go over here to expenditures, well, we'll come back to expenditures. Let's go over to the IRS for the United States government, official website of the United States government here. IRS Gov, charities, nonprofits, lobbying, which as we just saw, BLM via ActBlue is a nonprofit charity. And so it says, in general, no organization may qualify for a Section 501c3 status if a substantial part of its activities is attempting to influence legislation commonly known as lobbying. And that term, of course, comes from people standing out in the lobby and handing wads of cash to legislators to pass particular laws. And that's where the good old oligarchy comes from when we say that corporations are controlling us. They are doing that via lobbying by stuffing fat wads of cash into our governor and legislators' hands. And there's a lot of reasons to think that that may be why there are mask mandates, as a matter of fact. So it says legislation includes any state legislator, any local council, any similar governing body with respects to acts, bills, resolutions, similar items And the organization will be regarded as attempting to influence legislation if it contacts, urges public to contact members, or so they are not allowed to lobby if they are a non-profit 501c3 organization, which we just saw that ActBlue is. Okay. And also there's another further restriction, is that they're not allowed to get involved with political campaigns. As a 501c3 tax-exempt organization, it is a restriction of political campaigns. And we come down here under the Internal Revenue Code, all section 501c3 organizations are absolutely prohibited from directly or indirectly participating in or intervening in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for elective public office. Contributions to political campaign funds or public statements of position, verbal or written, made on behalf of the organization in favor of or in opposition to any candidate for public office clearly violates the prohibition against political campaign activity. Violating this prohibition may result in denial or revocation of tax-exempt status. The imposition of certain excise taxes. Certain activities or expenditures may not be prohibited depending on the facts and circumstances. For example, certain voter education activities, it goes on to say, nonpartisan, general, like rock the vote, even though that's typically a left-leaning type of thing. Who knows? That supposedly could go either way. So anything like that is okay, but in general, to support one party or a particular campaign or candidate is not allowed. And I think there may be specific laws against it, which, I mean, implicitly this is a law against. This is saying, this is the IRS saying that, you're not allowed to be a tax-exempt organization if you are favoring any political campaign. And then back over here, lobbying, this substantial part, I believe, is considered 51%. So if more than half of the contributions from the charitable organization out to the world, less than half of those are allowed to go to lobbying, but not more than that. So if we go back over here to the expenditures, we can see that there's $1.4 billion of contributions. And this is another thing I've gone over in some of my other stupid videos, but this is for the ActBlue Charities, ActBlue on opensecrets.org, the 2020 cycle under expenditures. And here's like some of the administrative overhead kind of stuff, typical stuff, just a small chunk of the pie. Looks like 15, 20, 25, a little over 25 million, 25, 30 million, whatever. And almost $1.5 billion they actually put back out into the world. And as I've said before, that's really cool. That usually, or I shouldn't say usually, but to my knowledge, a lot of times this pie chart's flipped, where like 85% goes to this administrative stuff, and then only maybe 15% goes to the outside world a lot of times. Or that's what I've heard. I really should try and dig into that. So this looks good on the surface, like, wow, most of the vast majority of that money is going back out to the world. Well, when we scroll down here to contributions, we can see that this is 1.4 billion is going into this pool here, and 1 billion alone, which is well over 50% of 1.5 billion, is going straight to contributions to federal candidates. So that could be argued to be lobbying, I think. There's contributions to committees, which I want to say is lobbying. Maybe they're breaking this down and this candidate thing doesn't quite, maybe they're intelligently working that to where they're getting around that whole 51% thing somehow. I don't know that that's ever been checked into, but I think that's pretty sketch, because if you're contributing to a federal candidate, that's implicitly, to say the least, I would say that's lobbying. If you give a candidate $100 million, you probably have some expectations of what you want them to do. I don't think that I would be really surprised if any organization just gave a candidate $100 million and said, "Hey, you know what? We like the way you comb your hair or something." Uh, and then when you get down here to the top vendor recipients, you've got Bernie, which is a political candidate, which they are not allowed to do. They are not allowed to favor a political candidate and maintain a tax exempt status. And then Biden, all of this right here is definitely in violation of the tax exempt status. Biden for president, Warren for president, Pete for America, Democratic Congressional Committee. These are all people that, these are specific people that are definitely, it's not a nonpartisan contribution. It's quite obvious to everybody. I think you can search any of these people out and see that that they have a presidential candidate for president of the United States. So that's favoring a candidate right there. I mean, we don't even have to look at which party that she belongs to. It's pretty obvious, I think, but there it is. 2020 Democratic Party presidential primaries. So I would be highly surprised if you found, I mean, you might find a few Democrat happy lefties like Bernie and stuff that aren't 100% Democrat, but pretty darn close. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that ActBlue is acting illegally, and it's they can donate to these candidates if they want. I think it's pretty shady for BLM to be sort of a kind of a front. From what I understand, they have a certain window, a relatively small window maybe, that if they don't draw the money from ActBlue, then ActBlue automatically takes it and donates it to those causes that I've shown. So this also, to my vague understanding, seems to be a way for ActBlue, for BLM. I don't know that they have to show their expenditures. So it's sort of a mystery what they're doing with their money, and anything, whatever percentage they don't claim goes back into this pool and goes directly towards these candidates. So regardless let's give BLM the benefit of the doubt and say all this money is going into the black community and things like that. Let's keep that illusion for a second and then come back over here, and that puts all the blame on ActBlue. They are completely in violation of the IRS here, and once again, that's IRS Gov, charities, non-profits, lobbying, and charities, non-profits, charitable organizations, blah, 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 blah. You could just punch in charitable organization limits or limitations probably, and these should be within the top 5 or 10 results, these pages here. So there's its home, file, charities and nonprofits, exempt organization types, churches and religious organizations. That's funny. And then the restriction of political campaign intervention by tax-exempt organizations, because typically these 501c3s are, it's pretty common. That's like the primary use is for church-like organizations, and then this one's under that pile of breadcrumbs right there. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that that ActBlue, it's an election year, and they are in gross violation of this, and they owe the federal government a lot of money, or they need to stop pushing all of their money into a partisan campaign effort. Thanks a lot.